With Hornet defeated, now you can use the stereotypical Metroidvania dash ability. Which I kinda wish they did a little bit more with the abilities, like you have your traditional wall jump, and your traditional horizontal flying ability that gives you no vertical height. But you will be seeing me using the dash ability a lot throughout this playthrough. And this game does a very poor job about teaching you how to pogo. Like, it teaches you how to dash very well in comparison. So we're going to be seeing a stag station, surprisingly. Because I decided not to use it earlier on, I just got it early on, so I can just go there when needed. So yeah. Fast travel is pretty nice, especially in a game this big. And you're going to be seeing a lot of parts to this. I'm gonna guess 40? Maybe 40, maybe 35. So yeah, I'm heading to another area of the game. Because it feels so awkward to use Hollow Knight without all of his abilities. It's like firing a bunch of arrows without a quiver. But you know, sometimes you can't be the jack of all trades, you have to be the king of no trades. So yeah, you can actually, with the Mothwing Dash, you can actually head to the next area of the game pretty early on. You can go to the fungal wastes, which is a pretty decent place. A lot of enemies are pretty dangerous, but the first few enemies you encounter in this or in that area are just easy to deal with. Like, some of them don't attack you, but it's when you get into Mantis Village, things get a bit more difficult, because those Mantis enemies aren't really that easy to deal with. I always take the first hit, but they usually die early on. Now what's going to be the priority for me in the past is getting the charm that's called Fragile Strength and eventually Fragile Health. Or, yeah, I think that's what it's called. No, it's Fragile Life. Yeah, I think that's what it's called. But you can just slowly drop down this valley, this chasm, and you can find the Leg Eater, who forces you a toll for his charms, but they're probably the best in the game besides the Mark of Pride. Which is another reason why I was heading in this general location fairly early on. He has an interesting backstory later on, I think. But we'll be getting to the Halloween DLC later. So he sells you the Fragile Greed, the Fragile Strength, and also the Fragile Heart. That's what it's called. All of these charms are really good. I never really used the Fragile Greed though. Like, I'm not a greedy person. I'm good with the money I have. But extra damage and health are really great. Now we're gonna see a mini-boss soon. Some fun guys. Now these guys are pretty easy to deal with. They spit acid or infection at you, and that's fairly easy to dodge. And if you get too close to them, they start head-bopping at you at a violent pace, and it causes the floor to shake. But you know, your nail should outrange it if you're careful. Once you have Mark of Pride, you can just slash them to death from a distance, and they will go down very shortly, and they give you a nice charm notch for your problems. Charm notches are very good to have in this game, because the more charms you have, the more buff you are. These, Mushroom Warriors, these fungi warriors, aren't too bad. they sort of have erratic patterns. Sometimes they roll on the floor, sometimes they jump in an arch over you to try to get you, but if you just read their telegraphable patterns, you should be able to kill them pretty quickly. I hate these explosive spore enemies. Like, one of my silver runs ended because I got comboed by one of them, and it's very sad when you lose a silver run, a silver soul run in this game, because it's like, oh, you have to restart from the beginning if you want to beat it now. So yeah, like, I mean, there is a way of minimalizing the damage by just, like, exiting the game if you know you're going to die. Just kind of sad to use, but I may have used it once or twice or more in this playthrough, but whatever. What can you do? Anyways, so I'm heading immediately to the Mantis village. And like I said, the enemies there, the mantises, they aren't the easiest enemies to deal with in the game. Like, they aren't like endgame enemies like those husks in the White Palace that do 2 hits of damage and throw boomerang blades at you. But basically, the older mantises will lunge at you with their blade, and you can generally dodge it with a good old jump, but if you run far and if you strafe far enough to the left or the right, you can avoid it, or you can just tank a hit and kill them quickly with the fragile strength charm. The younger mantises sort of swoop down at you with their claws. And basically, when you strafe or jump out of the way, they usually home into the position you were before they lunged at you. So, yeah. And those are the only 2 enemies you're encountering here. You know, they aren't too bad once you memorize their telegraphable patterns. So, yeah. And then I go deeper into the Mantis village. And you have to, like, go to the downwards path first. I prefer the upwards path, so once I go back up to get the Mantis claws, I can just go back without fighting a bunch of enemies. Also, Mantises drop a lot of geo. They have very big wallets for enemies that are very thin. Especially since the younger mantises just have wings. You know, they sort of have stingers, and that's it. And the mantis claws really make this game really fun because you can actually platform better with them. And that's why I really enjoy items like these, even though they're stereotypical Metroidvania items. So yeah. So once you get the Mantis Claw, you can just sort of head around, and you need to open the switch to open the hatch that's taking up most of the floor. It's pretty easy to go through. So yeah. You go down, and then you go deeper into the Mantis village. What's hiding down there? Who knows? But you have to platform a bunch to actually get down there. Like, the platforming in this area coming up isn't too bad. It just involves a lot of practice. Like, if you know how to platform from the Path of Pain, you should be good. Like, you will be 100% good. I make some itty-bitty mistakes here and there, but nothing too bad, right? Yeah, but you can actually pogo off of the smaller mantises. Like, the grown-up mantises will actually slash upwards to counter your efforts of slashing them from above. It's sort of annoying. They really make you think about how you go up against them. This is pretty early on going deep into this village. So basically, you'll just kill some guards, and then you finally get to the Mantis Lords. They aren't too bad once you got everything down. Like, sometimes they'll hang on the side of one of the walls and throw a boomerang blade at you. And basically, if it starts upwards, it will arch downwards. And if they throw it from like a bit down, then it will just arch upwards and then go back to them. They have another attack where they sort of like, since they're moving so fast, it looks like they're teleporting around. Sometimes they'll move to like the side of the floor and then thrust to the other side. Also, they can appear from like on top of you and drop down, and basically you have to move instantly or they get you. They hit you. And that's pretty much it. The first Mantis Lord has more health points than the other two. Like, after you beat the first one, you have to face off against two. And the boomerang attack changes. Like, sometimes if they throw it, they will, like, the boomerang blades will collide within each other, and then they will spread apart, or they'll just go through each other and then arch away from each other. And that's pretty much it. As long as you can just dodge their telegraphical attacks, or their telegraphical patterns, you should be good. It's not that bad of a fight compared to the Nightmare King Grim, which takes a lot of effort to actually beat. And you will be seeing this later, maybe in part 13. But it isn't soon. That's all I can say. And basically, when there's one more left, the fight just ends because he has half health of the original Mantis Lord. And I'm not going into the deepness just yet because I'm getting the Mark of Pride. Now, I looked through the journal a bit because originally I was gonna do a 100% run, but it was like, yeah, I'm gonna just end it. That's why it's not like an 100-part series now, it's like 40 parts. So I looked through the journal real quick. And then I'm off to get the Mark of Pride. The Mark of Pride is a really good charm because it extends your range further than the Long Nail charm, and it allows you to just defeat a lot of other bosses with ease. Basically, you can't go in here because, like, you can't go in here without killing or defeating the Mantis Lords because the other Mantises won't have respect for you, and this guy will actually, like, the guy near the switch will just hit the switch and keep you out. He's like, I don't want to fight you, you're staying out there. But you know, and I just do a massacre of the village because I'm like, I want to do 100%. And I haven't killed enough of you for the hunter's description. Also, there's some other goodies in this room that requires platforming, like a bench, which you can rest on. You can also get a whole lot of geo from climbing up here. Like, also you get a hollowness seal, which you can sell later for a lot of cash. Like, I didn't know that originally and I just got a bunch of geo because I didn't know. Isn't that sad? But yeah, you can also get lore for selling the hollowness seals. Like the like the buyers, like, yeah, I remember who had these and whatnot. I don't think you get a reward for selling him everything though. I don't think so. I'm not so certain about that. But basically, there's a bunch of switches in the Mantis Village allowing you to take a bunch of shortcuts. So if you ever need to go to the Deepness, which I will be doing later in this recording, because I got a bunch of footage. Like, I got about 10 hours of footage from the whole playthrough. Now I'm going to be fast forwarding a bunch of parts that include backtracking. Metroidvanias have one big glaring issue with them, and it's going back to the original area and collecting stuff you couldn't because you didn't have the proper equipment or abilities to actually do so. So yeah, that's one of the bigger critiques about Hollow Knight that's obviously apparent by most users. Also in this area you get the Dash Master, which I don't really use that often, but it allows you to use the float. It allows you to do the float glitch easier. Also, there's this hidden room, and you can save Bretta, the girlfriend of Zote, later in the game. Now I'm gonna probably do a part dedicated to that, maybe after or maybe before. I don't know. Like, maybe I'll do it as an extra part to show it off. Why not? Might do a different save for it. But basically, Zoe, like the Hidden Dreams DLC, adds two old bosses. The Dung Defender, the Dung Defender, the Dream Edition, where he can do upwards of over 3 masks of damage after you fight him a couple of times, and then you fight Soap, who's very, very weak when you encounter him in the Colosseum. He's the only, like, enemy that does 0 damage to you, but he tries to run into you. So yeah, this is where I start fast forwarding, because this Hollow Knight just has so much backtracking. That's the problem with doing a Let's Play or like a video series about Hollow Knight. There's just too much backtracking, so I'm doing a bunch of fast forwarding here and there, so you guys don't have to watch me just go from point A to point B all the time. So at some points I will be stopping at certain areas. Like, I believe in a couple seconds I'm going to be getting the Fragile Heart and the Fragile Greed. Like, Fragile Heart makes it so you live through a lot of stuff much easier. You would be surprised. Like, after equipping it, after having 5 masks, I get about, well, I can't equip it, but I think it adds like 3 masks to your health pool. I don't remember. So yeah, I know a lot of areas by memorization in Hollow Knight. Like, there's some fuzzy areas like the Crystal Peaks and maybe the Howling Cliffs. But, you know, that's about it. And there's also some, like, I believe this part stops fast forwarding because I'm heading to the Queen Station, where you can get a Stag Station and a Mask Fragment for your wall jumping abilities. Basically, my rule of thumb is if I haven't been to a location before, I'm not going to fast forward it. I'm going to make sure I'm going to have a Hawkeye on whenever I actually go to a new location, so I don't accidentally fast forward a part. Because that would be bad, right? You guys would be missing stuff. How dare I miss something? So yeah. You can also go to the, forgot the Fog Cannon. Yeah, the Fog Cannon. If you go to the top left of the Queen Station. I don't think I really go through the Fog Cannon in this playthrough. Maybe I'll do it on like a live stream later. I don't know. Maybe I'll do another playthrough as a live stream series, because this game is really fun. I really enjoy it. You know, I never played a Metroidvania before. This is my first taste of a Metroidvania game. And this was a pretty big mouthful of Metroidvania. And if you are the person who lives under this rock and you're watching this and you're like, what's a Metroidvania? Well, you see, Metroidvania comes from two different games. It comes from Nintendo's Metroid game, which has a bunch of chasms and rooms to explore while fighting bosses. And the other game, Castlevania, which takes a more fantasy approach to the trope. And so people just combined the two names together, and we got Metroidvania games with bosses and stuff, with long winding dungeons, chasms, etc. But I really do enjoy how this game sort of, like, intertwines, like, dungeon rooms and caves, and makes it feel more organic compared to most Castlevania games, where the whole game is set in, like, a Transylvania-like mansion. You know? Also, if you save Breda, she fanboys over your knight. It's pretty interesting. But later, she goes all over Zoe. Once you fight him in the Colosseum, and the most... Oh, how do I describe his fight? It's really funny just seeing him bounce around like a bouncy ball. And you can just stand still and he can't hurt you. Like, there's little sound effects for when he's hitting you, but he's doing no damage, and he's like doing these fancy maneuvers. Like he backflips while jumping. And so, as always, like, hey, I'm the best. Like, if you save him from that giant, like, mosquito enemy, he's like, I could have killed him myself, but there's an achievement where you just leave, go to the Hornet fight, and come back, and his severed head is there. The game is like, you shouldn't have done that. You're an evil person. Like, they should give an achievement for the person who kills all the ghosts in that one part of the game where the guy's defending it. Like, if you try to dream nail somebody in that part, he will do 2 hits of damage, and he will absolutely curb stomp you. And I don't think you can actually kill him. The only way of defeating him is being an evil person and just killing all the, like, spirits of the dead bugs. So you can be a classic Undertale villain and defeat all of the ghosts and be the, you know, the Chara or whatever. But, you know, let's not bring bad fandoms into this. Let's keep this fandom safe, clean, and safe from the cancer of the Undertale fandom, you know? That's the problem with Undertale. It's like, it's a decent game, but I feel like it did nothing with its alternate dimension timeline themes. Like, maybe if Toby Fox, I believe his name was, did more stuff with the idea of just going through different timelines and stuff, I would feel more inclined to actually play it. But most people who actually make the game, like make mods for the games, you know, they do a much better job at actually making Undertale than Toby Fox did. Like, if a team of them went together and made an Undertale game, they would probably do better. Like, Toby Fox was like, oh, I did it alone. And I'll give him some credit there. He did it all by himself without having a heart attack. You know, especially when the fandom started making those weird pictures. Like, I would have a heart attack if I made a series and it caught fire and people from DeviantArt started making pictures of it. And that's what happened with Cuphead as well. Like, Cuphead just caught on fire and all the Undertale fans were like, we need to move, we need to jump ship. Oh, okay, I'm gonna get back to the game now, I'm sorry. So basically, the Brooding Malek isn't too bad. I nearly died to him, but he's not too bad. He spits infection out of his mouth, and it sort of lands in the general location you were. And if you try to get close to him, he just slashes you with his claw. So you gotta be careful. I suggest using the Vengeful Spirit against him when you can. Also, if you're like in the corner of the stage, he will jump at you. Sometimes he does it at random, but whenever you're in the corner of the stage healing, he will jump at you. And he will hit you if you're not careful. If you're just sitting there like a moron, like I was in some parts, you're gonna be hit. But he's not too bad. He dies pretty easily. Like, I think if you pogo on him when he's charging up his, like his major sped attack, then he will go down after a short while. But yeah. Also, I'm going to be freeing as much grubs as possible on this run. Well, grubs are very interesting in the game, because, you know, you don't know exactly what they grow up to, and when you collect all of them, the grub daddy sort of consumes all of them, but it's sort of weird because the achievement, or like the journal, I forget which, but it's like, oh, they're metamorphosizing. They're metamorphing, you know? They're transforming into a new being, and a lot of people within the lore division are like, oh, they turn into moths. And I'm like, that's cool, but aren't they just normal grubs? But, you know, maybe they could grow up to moths. Maybe. So, I'm heading back to the Queen Station, and I'm heading to the next location, and surprisingly enough, in about maybe like 2 hours of game time, I make it to the City of Tears, which has the best atmospheric music in the game. Like, it literally has the best opera atmospheric music ever that I heard. Like, some parts of this game sounds surprisingly and remarkably like Lord of the Rings, which I find really interesting for a game about cartoon bugs. You know, it's like, this game has a weird combination of Dark Souls, Cuphead, and some, like, Metroid, like Castlevania. You know? And this is the path you take to the City of Tears. You basically, like, if you go here originally, Hornet will just run to the right, and when you enter the room, she will just use her thread and vanish. Can't wait until the Hornet DLC pack, though. You know, I hope we get a, you know, fast travel ability or something with her, or just threading a needle to another destination. You can sort of cheese this section by going down the area, like down, and then dashing, and then you can get to like the second switch easily. But, you know, that's not what I do. I just take the hard way. So basically, once you flip the switch, the bridge is built, and you can put your city crest in, the false knight statue. Well, it's a large knight statue. But yeah, you just put it in and you enter the City of Tears, and then you're good to go.